Superman has been a character for quite a long time, and me being an idiot, I didn't bother to actually look up when he was created, which I'm doing so right now. But either way, since April 18th, 1938, yes, I'm literally not even going to hide the fact that I just looked it up because I forgot. So, 1938, based off the top of my head, it's 2025 now, so that's almost 100 years. It's about 80 something years. Superman has been a very popular and prominent character in a lot of media. He is now owned by DC Comics, which, funnily enough, I don't actually know what DC stands for, but he's also been portrayed a lot in the DCEU, the DC Entertainment Universe, which is, at the time of recording, they have just put out their newest Superman movie. I haven't watched it because I don't watch a lot of movies as a whole anyway, but I wasn't really interested in yet another Superman movie. However, Superman is not my favorite character. He is not the worst character ever, not by a long shot. I know a lot of people out there are huge fans of him, and sure enough, he's cool, but to me, I'm just gonna get out right out and say it, I think he is slowly ruining DC. And I'm going to explain why I think that. I think that they are doing something, I don't know if anyone else has called it this, but I'm calling it the Superman problem, just as a whole. And basically it entails that Superman is so strong that every other character is downplayed because of him and looks like an absolute joke. It's happened multiple times before, but the biggest one that started, at least to my knowledge, that started putting me down this path is, if you guys or girls, I would genuinely be shocked if any girls listen to me or watch my content, but if any of you guys or girls have ever watched the Justice League movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was a pretty good movie, I enjoyed it. But there was one glaring problem to me that stood out even as I watched the movie for the first time. Even before I was on this whole I think Superman is a plague to DC mindset, there was one issue that just, like the old saying, like a green thumb, just stuck out to me. So if you haven't seen the movie, spoilers, I will give you a second to either skip through or click off, or if you don't care, you can keep listening. But the main villain is a guy named Steppenwolf, and I don't know a lot about him, but he's a big gray dude, and he summons like a lot of these flying minions in a way. And you know, we got a lot of the movies setting up the Justice League, like Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. You know, I'm not a fan of Wonder Woman either, but that's not what this is about. Also, my lovely fiance has just told me that DC stands for Detective Comics. That's interesting. But regardless, Superman is, if I recall correctly, quote-unquote dead or not alive in this movie. Like, that's the biggest reason why they spend so much of the movie trying to get together and fight Steppenwolf without Superman. And, you know, it's tough, but they're not, like, getting their ass kicked. They're holding their own, but they're not, like, coming close to actually defeating Steppenwolf. I believe the whole cast of characters besides Superman for the time being in that point, or at that point, was Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, The Flash, and I don't know if Green Lantern was there or not, but they spend all this time going back and forth with Steppenwolf, and then at the end of the movie, as they're about to lose, Superman is reborn, and he just comes in and does everything for them in like 5 minutes. And now some of you might be thinking that I'm just salty. I am not kidding. Go watch the movie. Like, within 5 to 10 minutes max, Superman comes back and does every single thing that the entire Justice League were struggling to do in like 5 seconds. It's really stupid for multiple reasons. Like, sure, the Justice League are victorious, whatever. But it basically ruins your whole movie because you've spent the entire time setting up to this climax, this epic battle against the main villain. Then another hero comes in, outdoes all your work in 5 minutes, fixes every single problem that you had in 5 minutes, and makes essentially your whole struggle look like a joke and makes you look like a total chump. Like, imagine this. Imagine you're trying to, like, move someplace, and you rent out, like, I don't know, a U-Haul or some other form of moving truck. And you spend like 3 to 4 hours moving all of your stuff into the back of this truck. You exert yourself, but you push through it and you feel super proud that you got all this stuff moved. Then some asshole who's waiting at your new place, like, to help you with your stuff, effortlessly moves all of your stuff in less than 10 minutes and doesn't even he doesn't even start exhaling out of his mouth or break a sweat. He just does all of your work in a fraction of the time with not even a fraction's worth of the effort. You would be extremely pissed off. I mean, yeah, you might be thankful for the help, but it would basically make every struggle and every, like, limit that you just pushed your body past to get this job done look pointless because you still look super weak compared to this dude. And that's what they're doing with Superman. And they've been doing it for the past few years where they just, like, I can't even exaggerate this. There's a scene in Justice League where Flash is trying to, like, push this, I don't know if it's a bus full of pedestrians to safety or something, but Superman just comes in, does it in 5 seconds flat, and makes the Flash look, again, like an absolute chump. And I'm not a huge fan of the Flash or any of the other characters, but they're still prominent characters. That there are people who are huge fans of all these guys. And I like Batman a lot. He's not my favorite superhero by a long shot, but I really friggin' love Batman. I think he's cool as hell. And considering the fact that it just made him and everyone else look non-existent because, oh, we can just make Superman do it. Like, if I was Batman, I would just say, okay, Superman's alive. Let's just let him do it. He clearly is not breaking a sweat at all by doing this, so what is to stop us from just letting this guy do all of our work? The only reason I can legitimately think of is because then there wouldn't be a movie. Like, there would be no movie at that point. So it feels like now, in order to make these things, either A, Superman has to not be there, period. B, it has to be entirely focused on Superman. Or C, you literally have to, like, keep him out the entire time, and then only bring him in when you want your movie to be over. Like, he's a kill switch now. And it is ruining it in so many ways, because I've also seen a lot of people recently just whine and complain about the fact that, again, Superman's a kill switch. You bring him in when he's needed, he does literally everything for you, then he goes back to whatever he was doing, and that's the movie. Like, what is the point of spending so much time setting up your plot, establishing all your characters, only for Superman to come in and make your effort worthless? It feels like a massive FU to the writers, and it feels like an even bigger FU to, like, the people who bought the tickets to go see your movie. Like, it just feels like a massive FU. And ignore the button presses. I'm playing Asphalt Legends while I'm doing this podcast episode, but, like, also think about it this way. Batman vs. Superman. A lot of people hated that movie. And I get it. Like, I do. I will admit the whole Martha thing was really stupid, but that's not what I'm focusing on. I'm gonna focus, for this particular argument, on the actual, like, fight. I'm not gonna focus on the story. I'm not gonna focus on, like, the whole stupid thing with Lex Luthor. I'm not gonna focus on Doomsday or anything like that. I'm purely focusing on the namesake of the movie, Batman fighting Superman. A lot of people don't realize, but if you read the actual comics and went into the whole backstory of all that stuff, Batman had a lot more of a chance against Superman than you think, as I just hit my mic and committed mic abuse. I'm so sorry. Batman had a lot higher of a chance against Superman than you think. Because not only did he clearly have kryptonite, but in the comics and a bunch of other backstories when it comes to that stuff, he had not only other forms of kryptonite, but Superman had other things that would either affect him or make him weaker. And Batman went through a painstaking process to get all of this stuff. Dude literally has an entire collection of documents on his back computer and in his records in case any member of the Justice League goes rogue, including himself. Dude knows this stuff. And yes, you could also make the other argument. They're literally, I don't remember what it's from. I think it's from one of the animated series. He talks about this stuff and then, I don't remember who he's talking to, but somebody responds, "Why hasn't Superman killed you?" And Batman literally replies with something along the lines of, "It's because he's too nice." If Superman ever were to not be nice, he could murder me straight up. And that's, I don't even like that explanation. Because if you don't have anybody who is a legitimate challenge and threat to Superman, even if it's a villain, I know Doomsday exists, but if you don't have any way to have a legitimate threat to Superman, he's a walking win button. And it makes it so you don't need any other character because, you could just shoehorn Superman into it and call it a day. Because nobody can beat him. I personally am so much more drawn to the ideation of a Batman who, yeah, he's really tough and he's strong, but he also struggles and he's not just a walking win button. And it's a big reason why I like Marvel, because you could make the Marvel ideation or the Marvel comparison to Superman would be something like Thor. But even in something like Avengers Endgame, he's strong, and Avengers Infinity War is strong, but, well, I guess now that I think about it, the whole end of Infinity War he just comes out of nowhere, but he was fighting him before and he lost, so he went through a bunch of shit and a bunch of adversity to get to that point. And Thanos still won in Infinity War. And in Endgame, when they fought the other Thanos, he still was being met with, resistance. He actually had to try, and it wasn't just, Thor's here, fight's over, thanks for coming, and go home. And they don't do that with Superman. With Superman, it literally is just the pure definition of, alright, Superman's here, you guys take your mandated smoke break while he does everything for you. And it disgusts me because it makes, again, I repeat this point, a bunch of other pre-established characters that have huge fan bases all on their own, let alone the Justice League as a whole, it makes them all look completely worthless. And it undoes all of the work that you've done for the entire movie up to that point. It makes every single millisecond of storytelling that you have invested into the movie at that point look worthless because, yay, Superman. And it's to the point where, it's also lazy and bad writing because the only thing that they say that can weaken him is kryptonite. So literally every single Superman story involves kryptonite. I can only think of one or two specific examples where, at least in the DCEU, kryptonite was not involved with Superman. It's such bad writing. It is such bad, inexcusable, lazy writing. Because you're power creeping your character so goddamn hard that you have to keep returning to the same well. And it was to the point where I literally saw a bunch of people, I think even before either Justice League or the new Superman movie coming out, being like, how much you want to bet that the main villain in the next Superman thing is just going to use kryptonite like every other villain? And they have a point, because literally, as I just said, it's terrible writing. And I know this is going to seem like I hate Superman as a character. I don't hate him, but I legitimately do think there have been so many better ways that DC Comics could have written the character and handled the character. And I'm sure if enough people listen to this and they have arguments for times that Superman was beaten, one thing I can think of is either Doomsday or Zod. But even so, they're so far and few in between that when they need a legitimate threat to Superman, they're just like, oh, kryptonite, here we go. And it's stupid. It's extremely stupid because now the only way to counter the kill switch is with another kill switch. So you've essentially written yourself into a corner. And I don't know, man. I won't sit and waste your time. I think Superman's an alright character. I'm just mainly mad at DC Comics for the way that they've shoehorned themselves into something where you either just have to ignore all of it entirely, which then just makes your fan base think you have continuity issues, or address it directly, which means you're doubling down, which means the people who are shitting on you for it are going to hate you more. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got.